I have about 6 questions. Let me deal with that. The first one is on from John Bosco on the of Vanguard on the minimum wage. You asked whether figures were discussed. No. I think it is the general parameters and the general principle of the minimum wage itself. And like we have said here severally, the federal government is not in opposition to wage increase. The President and the Federal Executive Council and the federal government are not in opposition to the concept of wage increase. The issue has been a wage increase that is that we can defend, meaning a wage increase that will not lead to inflation, a wage increase that not just the federal government but the subnationals and the organized private sector are able to pay, and something that is also sustainable. I recall that the President also mentioned last week that because of the fact that he is not in opposition to the issue of wage increase, he has even asked that instead of waiting for a whole 5 years before wages are reviewed, he has given, or he has muled the idea that we can actually look at these wages between 2 to 3 years, so that if there are gaps, we don't have to wait for 5 years for those gaps to be closed. So the discussion was not around the figure itself. It's about the general parameters and the general principle of the wage increase itself, which the federal government fully supports. But federal government will have to do something that not only it can carry, but the subnationals and the organized private sector will also be able to go along. Recall that I've said it here, that the issue of the new or issue of national minimum wage is not just that of the federal government. It is for the federal government, for the subnationals, and for the organized private sector. Therefore, every decision to be taken by the President will have to also take note of the sensibilities of the other parts that I talked about. So, yes, there will be wage increase because there's already a proposal before the President. There is already a report before the President. The President is deepening his consultation, and it is in that spirit that he met with the organized labor last week, and is also, as they requested, he will also meet with them on Thursday this week to finalize their thoughts, and then he will make his informed position known to Nigerians by also sending this to the National Assembly. There's a question about, from Larry Lasisi, I think, about rice. Now, because of the urgency of the need to have food available to all Nigerians, government has already taken these very proactive steps to ensure that this rice is available, and not just available, this rice is already being transported to the various states. The state governors are already in receipt of this rice, and this is tied to the question that Ubale from DW asked, that, perhaps this appears small. Yes, it is. And government is not saying that by this supply it is solving all the food challenges or the food problems that we have around the country. This is a necessary first step, and government will continue in that direction. Government will continue to do whatever it takes to ensure that Nigerians have enough food to eat. Of course, you also know some of the interventions that the federal government has done in the agricultural sector, boosting our own capacity to produce food, not just for our domestic consumption, but also possibly for export. And government will continue to do that. We know that this will not solve the problem entirely, but this is a necessary first step that it has taken, and government will continue to do that. And you can see the speed with which the federal government has ensured that this is done. Now, what we want to say is the federal government also wants to appeal to the subnationals to ensure effective distribution of these food items so that those that are most vulnerable have access to this commodity. That is the principle behind this thinking originally. We call on the subnationals to ensure that there is effective distribution so that only those who ought to have this rice actually get them and use them. There's a question of the CNG from, I think, Adeswa, asking how long this will take. Already, if you have been following news, in the last 1 week, the CNG committee has already started rolling out its programs. They are also ramping that up. We know that this is taking a while, but you also know that some of these buses and some of these conversion kits are not just things that you get off the shelf. They take time to import or take time to put together. Procurement processes are there because whatever we do have to be in conformity with what our procurement laws lay down. Therefore, government will follow every process to ensure that this promise made by Mr. President is not just being fulfilled, but is also ramped up. And the federal government will deepen that. Of course, that is the direction that the world is going. CNG is not only cheaper, it is also cleaner and less harmful to the environment. And I've mentioned here a couple of times some of the approvals that the federal government has given, the Federal Executive Council has given for the supply of buses and cars for federal government departments and agencies. All of them will have to be CNG compliant. It is all in the spirit of ensuring that we have a smooth transition, like is the practice the world over. So yes, it may have taken a little longer, but these are necessary first steps. I will assure you that in no time, CNG will become a lot more entrenched in our, not just government offices, but all private organizations. And I know that the CNG, the Committee on CNG is putting a lot of emphasis on public transport. The conversion kits will be made available first to the public transport operators, because they are the people that move people to and from work, they move farmers, move everybody around. So they need this first, and government is paying a lot of attention to that. The whole idea is to crash the cost of transportation in this country, and government is determined to do that in no time. I think that I've answered most of the questions. To recap, yes. Yes. You know, there has been talk about, some people are saying there's a multiple budget and all that. It is not the case. And that is why the Minister of Budget has been asked to submit this additional information to the National Assembly to make it take an informed position on most of these aspects. I want to, before, this wasn't discussed at FEC, but I also need to put out there that you are aware that Nigeria has been discussing with the United Arab Emirates on the issue of the visa issue for Nigerian passport holders going to the United Arab Emirates. Today, an agreement has been reached on that, and effective from today, 15th of July, Nigerian passport holders are able to obtain visas to go to the United Arab Emirates. Details of that will, of course, be provided to you later today when we put out a press statement on that. But I can tell you that that agreement has been reached, and effective from today, those intending to travel to the Nigerian passport holders intending to travel to the United Arab Emirates are able to do so. Thank you very much.
I said that you have told them Amendment Act to the budget. You didn't describe it yet.
Okay, the Amendment Act. What do I have to know? Amendment Act.
But then you are doing news for them. Because in the news that they will submit to.
Well, just an addition to that, to what you have said, is like an Amendment Act that will be sent to the National Assembly on the 2024 budget. It's not a new thing. It's an Amendment Act that will be sent to the National Assembly. Of course, it is the tradition of the executive to allow the National Assembly to unveil some of these things, and that is why we don't want to go into further details. I'm sure the National Assembly, once it gets budget, they will do that. The executive is always respectful of the tradition of the National Assembly in terms of their protocol. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.